All right. So who is going first? So let's do a quick review of what we've done so far, and then decide on what next to do. Did anyone try it? Did anyone attempted it? What result did you get, and what challenges do you have? I hope you can hear me.
Yes, we can. Mr. Sorry, somebody like me, last week I went for a conference, a retreat program at Surulere for all CPS in Lagos State. So I could not do the assignment, sir. So sorry.
Okay, if you didn't do the assignments, like I don't really want you to comment. Like my question is majorly to those that attempted the assignment. So if you try it, if you have any challenge, let me know. Like I said at the beginning of this class, the whole essence of this, like you all know, is a free training, right? So but sometimes people say when you don't pay for something, like you don't really know the value, right? But I don't want to assume that's the case here. At the same time, I remember I told us at the beginning of the class that you need to give time to this, right? Sometimes it could be volatile, right? You think you know until you are then asked to do it. That's when you discover that, oh, you are not actually as fast as you think you are. If you see any fast web or you see any fast software engineer, majorly because they have given themselves to it, they have committed their time to it, none of that. So, most of the things that you see people do today, they don't just get there because they wish it, right? People get things done because they've given their time to it, right? So that's the way to get things done. So I don't know. Now that I'm not able to assess where we are, I don't even know what next to do, right? Because I don't want it to be like we're just building, something on nothing. Of course, that won't stand. So that's the challenge I have now. If I said, okay, let's move forward, we can move forward, but if the foundation be faulty, then what can you do? So that's the challenge. Since I'm not able to assess us, I don't also want to assume that we understood what we've learned so far. So maybe what I will just do then is probably just do a recap of some of the things that we've learned so far, and then still give us another assignment against next week, and let's see how that turns out. I think I'm not sure of the plan of the organizer of this program, but maybe they might also have to do maybe some assessments to also provide a clue as to the next line of action, right? Okay, like I said, so some of these things, they are not difficult, right? But I remember I told us also about the first time principle. So it's only when you give yourself to it that you actually get to know more and you get to be able to do certain things on your majorly what we'll just be doing is probably just to lay the foundation. Then you can then build whatever you want on it, right? Why some people will build bungalows, some people might just decide to build duplex on the foundation. So it all depends on you, and it all depends on your commitment, your dedication to it. All right, so having said that, I think we can just go ahead and do a recap and probably go over some of these things. Kindly mute yourself, please. I don't want this distraction. If you're joining the class, please. Okay, so I want to believe that we'll be able to get the environment, the editor set up, right? And the editor we are using is the Visual Studio Code. So once you've set up the editor, can then move on with this. Okay, so let me share my screen. Share screen. All right. I think I have a material. Let me see if I can get out. Okay, so let me take this guy out completely. Okay, let me close it. Then let me start again. Let me start afresh. Okay. I hope you can still see my screen. Yeah, this is what I have.
I can't see.
Okay. All right. I hope you can all see my screen. So this is where we started from, right? So you've installed your Visual Studio Code. And once you launch your Visual Studio Code, this is the next screen that you see, right? And we said from this screen, you can then proceed to do whatever you want to do, right? And we said, okay, the first thing is, so you can see you have your open, you have new file, clone Git repository, connect to. So all of this, as you advance, you'll be able to use this clone from Git repository, for example. So Git majorly is for version control, right? So, and you have GitHub, which is your online repository where you can push your code and pull the code from. You can use to manage your versions. You can use to among developers. So you have many people working on a project, so you can add all of them to your GitHub repo, and they can all pull from that repo and they can all push back to that repo, which means that you can actually have many individuals working on the same code base at the same time. So the code base is basically stored the repo, GitHub repo, right? So from there you can then pull, maybe you can pull when you're done with whatever bit you're working on, you can push back and someone can then merge all of those requests together before you eventually test and deploy, right? So as time goes on, you get to know more about all of those. But like I said, for today, we're still going back because we couldn't really access and know where we stand as far as all that we've done is concerned. Okay, so we'll just be doing a brief recap. In between, I will try as much as possible. Let me see if I can have a material. Let me see if I can access that material and probably run us through that material once again. Let me see. I'm coming. It's located somewhere. I'm not so sure my desktop or my. I'm not so sure the location of that material, but it's fine. Okay. I'm not so sure of the exact location of that material, but we can move on. So the first step is to actually create a folder. Like I said, that folder can help you to actually manage all of the other portion of your code. So which means that irrespective of the language you're using, even if you're using any scripting language, let's say PHP, for example, if you're using PHP as a scripting language, or you're using JavaScript as your scripting language, or you're using your regular HTML, which is a markup language, or you're using your CSS, which is your style, right? Or you have images on your web page, or you have videos, or you have documents, or any multimedia file that you have, right? So you can use folder to structure them such that you can have the main folder which houses all of other components of your web page. Then you can go ahead and have subfolders to manage CSS. You can create another subfolder to manage your images. You can create another subfolder for maybe your JavaScript or your PHP file, or anyhow you want to manage it, right? So let's start. So we can go ahead and create a folder now, say on our desktop. So for example, we can just go to our desktop and create a folder, a new folder, and then we name that folder to, let's say, actually, maybe we can call it training or something. So we can name that anything. So rename it as training. So we rename it as training. All right, so let's go back to our Visual Studio. Basically, what we just need to do is just click on open. It will ask you just to search out the directory where that folder is, right? So the folder is created on my desktop, and this is a folder training. So I'll just select the folder and I'll say open. So I have the empty folder, right? Which is training. So the next thing is, now that I have the folder, what next do I do, right? So I want to create maybe another subfolder. Inside this folder training, I want to create a subfolder called maybe CSS. I want to create another subfolder called images. I want to create another. So for all of the things I need to do. So if this is my main folder, which is training, right? So the first icon that I have here is new file. So if you want to create new file, you click on that. The second one is new folder. The next one is refresh. So this is what I want. So I'll just create a new folder, right? So this folder will be inside the main folder called training. So this time, this folder is named, let me say images. So this folder will keep all of the images for this project. Good. I can also say, okay, I want to create another folder. I'll call this folder CSS. So that folder, oh, sorry, it is not meant to be inside this. So I can just go ahead and delete it from inside. It's supposed to be on the same level, not inside. So I can move to bin. Good. So let's go back. All right. So I have my image folder. Good. So in my training, this is my training. So I can create a file inside this guy. Inside this my training, I can then go ahead and create a file. Yeah, so I can name the file. Like I said, the landing page is always referred to as index, right? So index.the extension, which is HTML in this case, right? So yeah, we have that. So we have index.html. So now that we have the file, we'll just do this. Instead of typing everything else, because this file has already been named as an HTML file. So this editor recognizes this file as such. And because of that, instead of typing out all of the tag by yourself, so you can just do HTML. Don't forget that I told you that because it's a tag, every tag in HTML is marked up. That is enclosed inside the less than and greater than sign. So because of that, so usually this is what you have. This is what starts your HTML page, right? But because this editor is somehow intelligent, so you can just do HTML. And if you're doing HTML5 and you select this by default, it will give you this by default, right? So this is the structure of your HTML, right? So you can then go ahead and and start building this up. Another thing that we did was to go to our view, goes to extension, and we search out an extension called Live Preview by Microsoft. Live Preview by Microsoft. Okay, so this is the extension, Live Preview. So all you just need to do is just, if you have not installed it, you will see install it. So just click on that install. And once you do that, you'll be able to then preview. So far, what we've done is with this, so we can just, this is a live preview, right? So once you click on it, it will just automatically preview this for you. Okay, so far, so good. So this is a blank page, right? Now, all of this white region that you can see on my screen is referred to as the body of this white region. That's below this address bar. Everything that you can see within the white region is in between this opening body tag and closing body tag that you can see here. So with that, whatever you want to add will then be in between this opening body tag and closing body tag. This document that you are seeing up here, that's the title, right? So you can see what you have, that's the title. And once you change this, right, to whatever name you want to give to it. You can see whatever you want to have here. Once you make changes here, it reflects here automatically. So you can see that my title has changed from this to this now. So that's the title of my web page. And every other thing, which is the body, will then reside here. So another thing we can do is that we can go ahead and add our CSS, right? So our CSS can also be a folder. That's if that's what we want. This is if you have multiple CSS file, but if you're not considering multiple CSS file, maybe this CSS folder might not be necessary. When we are considering multiple CSS file, this might actually be necessary. So you can just go ahead inside this CSS folder now, go ahead and create a new file and call it style.css, right? So you have the CSS file. So we have the HTML, we have the CSS. Don't forget, I told us we are in HTML, we have what we call the attributes. And you can apply attributes to any HTML tag, right? So if you do this, for example, and you say an attribute called maybe BG color, for example. So attribute BG color will be equal to, for example, let's say we just say red. So you can see, I told you that the body is the white region before, but now we have said cover our entire body with background color of red. And you can see, so we have the background color of red here, right? So which simply means that whatever you want to see on your web page will now reside in between this opening body tag and closing body tag. Now I've just used as an example. You might not necessarily have to do this, right? So the same thing that you have done here is the same thing that you can do with CSS, right? So you can go to your CSS, right? And I remember I told you that every element or every tag in HTML is a selector in CSS. And the rule of CSS say you must have a selector, a property, and a value. So your selector is identified with these curly brace brackets, this open and close curly brace brackets. So this body in CSS, if you notice, I'm on style CSS now. This body in CSS is the selector. Then once you have your selector and you open your curly brace bracket, right? The next thing you need to do is to select the property and give that property a value. So the property majorly are all of the attributes that you can apply to the body. So for example, now in CSS, if you want to apply the same background color, so you can check this out as your property, background color, and give that background color, let's say red, right? So we have body, background color, red. I don't know. Now let me see. 0002. Okay, let's use this. 0003 is black bar. Okay, good. Now, whatever you apply, I actually want to ask a question, or maybe to save time. Maybe it's not necessary since we are just doing a review. So you notice that even though we have defined a black background color for this, yet it is not showing here, and that's simply because we've not linked our CSS. We've not linked our HTML to CSS. So how do we do that? So we come before the closing head tag of the HTML, and we introduce what we call the link. So the link, the relationship is style sheets, and the href is simply the location of your CSS file. So you can say the location of your CSS file in this case would be inside. So you don't need to reference the folder that is housing all of your projects, right? Which is the training folder. So the way you reference is you reference from the level you are to the level you're going. So for example, now, so this training folder is the main folder. The folder where the style is CSS. So that's what you just need to reference. Reference the folder, which is CSS, then you slash style.css. And you can notice immediately we did that, you can notice that the background color changed to black, which is what we have defined here. So if you change this color here, whatever we change it to, we automatically apply it. So that's because you have now linked your HTML to with your CSS. Outside that, if you didn't do that, you won't be able to achieve that result. So it's as simple as that. Now that we understood how to link and all of that, now let's move on to now look at an example. Okay, so we'll just go ahead and do this. So let's go to our HTML. So we have linked our CSS. So let's go to our body now. So in our body now, we want to start doing this. And this might be the last time that we actually talk about HTML, because we have actually dwelled long enough on this. So I might just take time to actually take questions today so that we don't have to come back to this again. Then every other thing you can do every other thing on yourself. Don't worry, I will allow you to ask questions. But I just want us to just go over it. This video will also be uploaded so that we can also have access to it. Okay, so if you remember, I told you also, the div tag is majorly used to sectionalize or to sectionalize your web page, right? That's what the div element is used for. You will notice from time to time you'll be seeing div all around, right? You'll just be seeing that div element all around on your project. I will also show some trick to get things done at the end of the class today. But let's move on. So in our body now, so we want to introduce a div, right? In this body, so we introduce a div and we'll press enter. So it gives us this div, right? Now, because I said this is used to sectionalize your web page, right? You might have enough div. You might have enough div elements on your web page. So if you then go ahead and style a div, you know that what that means, right? It will be applied to all of the places where you have that div elements. So that's that might not be what you want to achieve. That's the reason why most of the time we don't actually style the div element itself. And which is the reason why we have what we call the class. So the class gives us the opportunity to actually define certain attributes that can be applied to certain elements. So the whole idea of class, for example, if you pass through the primary school, right? Just like we have in Nigeria. So the whole essence of having I think now they use basic, right? So the whole essence of having basic 1, basic 2, basic 3, basic 4, basic 5 is such that when you get to school and you belong to basic 1, you know where to go to, right? So that a basic 1 student will not go and sit among basic C students because it doesn't belong there, right? So that's the whole essence of having class. And that same logic can actually be applied in web development to say, okay, when you say a class, it means that whatever belongs to that class will only inherit the attributes that has been defined for that class. So if anything does not belong to that class, it means that it has nothing to do with that class. Going by that example of basic 1, basic 2 that I cited, right? So you can say, so let's say we have this class called, you can say to check for class. So you just come after the V in the div tag, do your press your space bar and search for an attribute called class, right? Then you can give that class a name. For example, let's say main. Let's say that's the name of the class. Good. So you have this div, which is like the main div now. That's the main session. So let's say inside this main session now, you want to have another div. And this time around, let's say this div belongs to a class, maybe your navbar. Yeah, navbar is simply navigation bar. So navigation bar helps you to navigate from one page to another on your web application. So for example, now you have your home, you have your about, you have your services, you have your portfolio, you have whatever. So you can navigate from your home to your services, you can navigate from your services to your contacts, you can navigate to from your contacts to your about, and all of that, right? So that's what the navigation bar does, okay? But what you can also do is to say, okay, inside this my navigation bar, right? Let's say you can say, oh, okay, so I want to have another div where I will have my, let's say, logo, maybe my logo to the left, and let's say I will now have my my navigations to the right, right? So that's you can also do. So which means that this div now, don't forget, I told you that div is used to actually sectionize your page, right? So div is like a row. It's like a row section on your web page, right? So it's like, you just pick, let's say somewhere around here, from here to somewhere around here, and that's a div. So that div now can now be divided into smaller div if you want, right? So a bigger row can be divided into a smaller row using div. So which means that I have this bigger, let's say, using that language, let's say this bigger div, which is our main, right? Inside that bigger div, we now have another small div called the navbar. So inside this navbar now, which is a row, right? We now want to divide this into two and have another div, right? And the first div up there will be the logo, maybe to the left. Don't forget I told you this is a row, right? So which means that then we can have another div, right? So maybe this other div will now be to the right. So this div for logo, we can have a class for it, call it maybe icon class, right? And the div below, which is for navigation, we can call that one, say that one belongs to a class called menu, right? Good. So inside this guy now, inside this bigger div, this div, which is for let me see if I can just structure this guy very well so that to make it clearer. So this div closes this div. This div, this one, they are the same level, right? This one and this one. This one closes this one. This other one closes this one. This one below closes this one. And this last one closes this one. So you can see the way we structure it out now. Good. All right, so this closes this, this closes this, this closes this, and this closes this. Yeah, so we have four opening tag, for closing tag. Fine. So now inside this one, which is for our logo. So we said this is for our logo. This is for our logo, right? So we can say this one would be because I don't have any logo now. Let's use our H2 to just do our logo, right? Okay, so we have, and we can say this are H2. Let's say belong to a class. Belong to a class called logo, right? And we can give it a name and say code Africa. Great. All right. So this other one, I don't know. Maybe if it to be clearer for you, you can space them out. I don't know. I hope you're getting it right. I hope it's not confusing. So which means that this guy and this guy, then this one now. So this menu now is now what we now want to deal with now. And is this div menu now? So we have what we call the UL, which is used to demarcate unordered list. Unordered list are the lists that doesn't have that doesn't follow any particular order. For example, if you use ordered list is like you want to itemize something maybe from 1 to 10. So you can say 1, item 1, this, item 2, this, item 3, this, item 4, this, item 5, this, and so on and so forth, right? That's ordered list. But unordered list, because you don't need them number, right? So you can just go ahead and say unordered list, which is UL. Then the list itself, LI. That is inside the unordered list. Then these are the list of the items I want. So I have my LI. Then inside my LI, I introduce the anchor A, which is A. Then anchor, then hyperreference, which is the reference, which is the location you are going to, right? If you want it to be on the same page, you just use this guy, hash. So which means that this guy is going nowhere, right? If you click on this, it will still remain on that page. So you can say, for example, this is your home. So you can just replicate this. To reflect what you want. Since those links, they don't really exist, and it's just going to refer us to the same page. All right. So that's all we have. So let's push this one also. Let's push this guy in a little bit to just differentiate this, and this is the div. Yeah, this is the div. This is the LI, UL, LI, LI. Good. All right. So now that we have done this, now let's now begin to style this guy. Let's style this guy, at least to just see something, right? So this is what we've done so far. So we have a main div, which is this entire div. But inside that div, we have another div, which is the navbar div. Now, the navbar div is divided into two. We have div, we have div, this div, icon, and we have another div with class menu, this guy. So now let's begin to style. So what we intend to achieve, if you look on the result on the right-hand side, what we intend to achieve is to have Code Africa on the left and have this men listed on the right, right? So that's what we tend to achieve. And we want to give this guy a background and then lay every other thing on the background. If you notice, this is quite different from what we did the last time, but of course, the results might be the same. Like I said, it all depends on what you want to achieve. And when you go to the market, there are many rules that lead to the market. So it now depends on the one you intend to follow and how fast you are. That will determine the result that you get. Okay, so let's move on. So let's take out this background, which I have here. Because in the recent, I don't think I need it. But okay, maybe I should just show something by doing by saying maybe margin margin left right. Okay. So margin rights. So you have seen 10%. Now, let me now show. So let's add a background color to this so that we can understand what this margin things mean. Now, so you can see that if you have this web page, you can even leave it as white actually. It doesn't make any difference. So if you have this, your website, so you notice that there are some websites, right? That, there's nothing like margin. Now, what we call margin is actually to say, okay, this div, this your body. That you said, okay, this is my entire body, all of this white region. Now, you will see some website like there is no margin, like they will start almost from this line. So if I take this guy out now, like they are starting just immediately from the body line. So let's take it out. Can you see this Code Africa? It's starting almost from it. But you see some other websites that you see margin to the left and margin to the right, and the website itself is just at the middle. So that's how to achieve that. So you say body, then you now say this your body is 100%. All this entire white screen that you can see, this white screen area is 100%. So if you now want to give a margin to the right and to the left, you can then decide how many percent to the right, how many percent to the left. But because you want your website to be at the center, that means it is the same measurement that you apply to the right that you also apply to the left, so that you can then have the website at the center, right? So if your entire page is 100%, so you can have 10% margin to the left and 10% margin to the right, which means that you are left with 80% screen size, right? So that's what that means, right? If you want to use that approach. But if you don't want to use that approach, yeah, you are fine. Which means that you won't have any margin, like your web page will just start from there. All right, let's move on. So if you don't want to style that, so we can just say, we can start from the one that we have and say main, the class that we have, right? One thing about class is not the same as tag when you want to style. So if you want to style a class and you want to write that selector in CSS, you will have to start with a dot so that this guy will know this is a class. But if it's the tag itself that you want to style, you don't need to add anything.
So you are putting it down.
So you don't need to add any dots. But because it's a class that we have, so if you see what we have here is the class main. So which means that if you want to style that class main, we just say dot main, right? That's our selector. Then property, we can just say margin. Like I said, margin is 0, top right, bottom left. But if you put a single value, that means you're saying, okay, apply this value to all the 4 sides. If not, you can specify 4 different values, and those 4 values will be applied. But the way the order of the application is top right, bottom left, right? Okay, so we say margin is equals to 0, padding. We can also say padding is equals to 0, right? And we save it. So which means that in our class main, which is the house that houses the entire code that we have on this white region, we already defined the main class as margin of 0, padding of 0. Fine, let's move on. Now, let's go back to this. So now that we have applied that first one, let's go further with our main, right? Oh, sorry, this is supposed to be like our body, not me. This is our body. Sorry. We can apply the same thing to main if you want. But we are saying body to be of margin 0 and padding 0 to this entire body. No margin at all. In your own case, if you want margin, just go ahead and give it a margin, right? You can try it out. See what the results will be. All right, let's move on now. We want to now style our main. Then we'll style our navbar, we'll style our icon, we'll style our logo, and we'll style our menu. Okay, let's go ahead and style. Now that we have not styled it, can you see the results? Now, when we are done with styling, we can also see what the results will look like. Okay, let's move on. So, because it's a class, so the name of the class is main. So let's move ahead and style that class dot main. That's our selector, right? Then we need to load it with our property and value. So we say width. The width, breadth, that's width. Like how wide do you want your page to be? So in your own case, if you have specified, let's say 10% margin to the right and 10% margin to the left, you can't come here again and say width will now be 100%, right? Because you've already specified 10% to the right, 10% to the left. So what you have left is 80%. So which means that your width will now be 80%. If not, you will have some overlap. All right. So, but in this case, because our margin is 0, so we can then margin right, margin left is 0. So we can specify, let's say 100% for this guy as our width. The entire body width. Good. Now, we can say, oh, if we want to give the background now, so we can say, okay, background, which is this background, right? Like we did the other time, linear gradient. Yes, our linear gradient. We can give it a value of RGBA, right? We open this guy, red, green, blue. That's what it is. Kindly mute yourself, please, if your microphone is distracting me. So you have 0, 0, the value of your red is 0, the value of your green is 0, the value of your blue is 0. And how big do you want this guy to be? So you specify 0.5.
Oh, fuck, get lost.
Okay, so 0.5, right? And comma RGBA, zero, 0, 0, 0, 0.5, right? Okay, so we need the image, right? The image we want to use. So let's go to let's go to Pexels. Yeah, pexels.com. Can you see my screen?
Yes,
Can
we
you
can
see
see your screen.
my Pexels screen, right? Not the
No.
app. Oh, okay. What are you still seeing?
We are still seeing your CS style, your CSS page.
Oh, okay, all right. Let me reshare. Okay, let me share that. Excuse me. This Zoom. Okay. Wow, imagine I can't find this Zoom. Oh, okay. Sorry, stop share. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. So we are on Pexels now, so we can look for any image, right? Yeah. Okay. So copy this image. Then let's go to the folder. Oh, we can just close now. Okay, so I'll just go and paste that image in my image folder. Probably need to rename it to make it easier for me. So maybe I'll just call it one.jpg. Yeah, I think it will be easier for me like that.
So I can't see what you're doing.
Yeah, basically I just copied the image from my. Let me share my Visual Studio back.
I really want to see how you copied it from Pixels because I tried. It didn't just work for me. So I really want to see how you copied it.
No, you download it now. You don't copy, you download. I show you how I downloaded it now. So when I click on download, it downloaded it to my system. So I just went to that location on my system, copy it and go and paste it inside the folder that I'm working with. You don't copy from Pexels, you download from Pexels. I'll be Pexels.
Thanks for the correction. I'm grateful. Thank you.
All right. So let me go back to this guy and share this. I don't know why this Zoom icon is disappearing on my system. I don't know. Okay. All right. Yeah. Okay. So this is my Visual Studio Code, right? So I've copied the image by rename because it was a long name that I copied. So I just rename it to one.jpg to make it easier for me, right? So now that that has been done, we can then go ahead and just add this guy, linear gradient is this, then
Is how long will the training last for?
Is this your first class of coming?
Yes.
It's usually 4 hours.
All right.
Kindly mute yourself, you are distracting us, please. Kindly mute yourself, please. Okay. All right. So, like I said, so basically what we've done is we've copied the image. We have renamed the image. Why?
Please mute your mic. Oh, mute your mic, Emmanuel Osho, please.
Okay. All right. So, so the next thing that we need to do now is to add the image source, right? That's the next thing that we need to do. URL. Or I might even have to. Okay. Let me do this. Okay, one moment. Yeah. Let's do this. Okay, let's do this instead. Okay, now that we've added the gradients, let's add URL. So let's do this. URL and this URL. The file location. So this guy is located where? He's located in our images folder, right? So let's just do, excuse me. Don't forget RGB opaque alpha. So this guy would be images, right? Slash 1.jpg, right? Okay. So what happened? So we have this, we have this, we have this. Okay, now let's move on. Okay, so we've styled the background. Let's do background position. Background position. Let's say center. Background size. Let's say cover. The height. Okay. Right, so as this. Okay. Why is the image now coming up? Let's check it out. Background, this. Brackets, this. Brackets. Background image, linear greetings. 0.5, 0.5.
The Bluetooth device is ready to pair. The Bluetooth device is connected.
Okay. So we have linear gradients, image background, linear gradients, or happen. Is there any mistake here?
Sorry, boss.
Yeah.
URL or SRC? Is it, if we use SRC, is this still appropriate in place of URL, sir?
No. It's not SRC actually. That's when you're using image, right? Image in HTML is when you're using, when you can say SRC, right?
All right.
Yeah. Yes. Okay, name this. Yeah. Background image linear gradients. Do I have any other style here? Yeah. 100. Yeah. It seems something is blocking it. Let's debug that together. Okay. This image. Okay, let's try something. Let's do this to be even sure that that image is working fine. So let's do this. This is the other div. Okay, so let's come here and add another div. And let's do this img as well as images, right? And the JPEG. Okay, so that image location is correct.
Sorry, sir.
Okay.
Were you trying to style the images or you're trying to bring it out?
Yeah, I'm trying to add the image to this class coming.
Okay, so basically it's not necessary we use the CSS, right? We can just do it with the HTML, right?
Yeah, I don't want. The HTML will not actually give me the result that I want, right? The HTML we actually have the image like you want, but the results I might not get the result that I want. For instance, if I do this, if you notice this image on my screen already, this image is already becoming blurry. Like, because in HTML, really, except you already have the dimension of the image and you have everything set, the result that you will get in HTML, you might actually end up, so if you design your image separately and you try to import that image to your project, so what you have is that you then discover that because the dimension of the image that you design is not the same as probably the dimension that you have on your web page. So sometimes they might then drag that image, and that image will now become so blurry, just like I have on my screen now. But what I intend doing, with CSS is to say, okay, beyond all of this, so you can see how I added this positioning and all of this to my this, and just to be able to get the same quality image that I added. Let me debug for that. Something is missing. Something is missing here. Okay. Let's comment this guy out still. So URL is, so let me add comments and let me try it again. So this is this. So I have this. I have this guy called, sorry, let me go back to my HTML and take this guy out at the moment. So I can comment this guy out also using this. Okay. So when you comment out, you are basically saying, make that portion of the code not executable. So I can say background, let's say background image. Images. /1.j. What's going on? And image this. This is interesting. Export training CSS. Images. Training images 1.jpg and training index.html. Okay. This is my name. This is background URL. This is interesting. Okay.
Okay, so basically, I was thinking that we could bring the image to the HTML and then style it differently with the CSS. maybe with the width, the border. I don't know. I'm just
Yeah, you
saying.
can actually do that actually. But that's not what I intend doing actually. But like I said, there are many roads that actually list in markets. There are many things you can different approach, right?
Yeah,
Um,
basically.
yeah, so you can do that, like I said, you can use that, you can use HTML to add it to it if you want to. You can use maybe attribute like even height and width to control, like in percentage, right?
Yeah.
Another thing you can also do is to also say, if you already have the dimension that you intend to use, you can actually cut that image into that dimension such that you can then, have a perfect fit on your web page. So for example, now if your width is like 960, so you can use maybe Canva or something to actually create that dimension of the image. Just import that image into Canva with that custom template that you have already made. And you can then export. Once you export out, then you have the same thing, like the same dimension. So in that case, it will just fit in automatically into whatever dimension that you already have for it. That's if that's the approach you want to take. But the approach I actually intend to take is to say, do this using, use this for me and use this width of 100% since my margin is this, but linear gradients, let me add something, and say to top. Instead of background image, let me try background. And let this be this. It's just interesting how this guy is not working. /1 dot image. Wow, this is interesting. Here. Okay, don't worry. Let's leave that out. I'll come back to it later so that it won't just take all of our time. So we want to have the next one is we want to style this guy. These are majorly what we want to do is just to give this guy a background, to give this main a background that will cover for everything, and then begin to style this one. So since that did not work, we'll come back to it. So let's just go ahead and style our icon, which is the next thing. So the main, we'll come back to that main. So this is the next class, which is the icon class, which contains our logo. So let's go ahead and style that icon class. So say .icon as a selector, then property, let's say we give it a width of maybe 200 pixel. Notice the difference between pixel and percentage. Okay, yeah, because we said is a div, and because the session is a single row for both the logo and the menu. So which means that we need to float one to the left. So float property is actually used to move an element in a particular direction, right? So for example, so we can float this one to the left, which means that if you float this one to the left, you can see now, before the order of the arrangements, if you take out this float, right, the order of the arrangement is such that you can see they are above each other. You know, but one thing that float will help you to do is when you have two elements in a single div, once you float one element to the left, or you float one element in a particular direction, the other elements simply become, both of the elements simply become in line. They will not align on the same line, which means the same row, right? So instead of them, you know, being on top of each other like we have currently. So once you float one to the left or to the right, the other one will automatically align and become an inline style, right? So if you float the first one, which is the icon, to the left, so this has become like our logo and it has been aligned to the left. Then this our menu has been aligned to the right. So let's go ahead. So to say, maybe we just want to add maybe height to this guy because it's our logo. In the real sense, we ought to be using maybe an image, right, for this. But since we don't have the image ready for a logo, if you have your own logo design already, so you can make use of it, right? You can add maybe some padding to the left if you want. If you want maybe 10 pixel padding, right? Yeah, so you can see now to just give a space. Padding is inside, margin is outside. So you added a padding of 10 pixels to it. So you have this. I don't know, you can try some things out, right? So now we've tied this guy. So now that we've tied, what we've tied now is this icon, and our logo is inside the icon. So let's go ahead and style this logo too. So we can go ahead now and style logo, because logo also is a class. So we also say dot logo, right? It becomes our selector. Then property, we can say maybe color. And maybe we can give it a color of maybe hash FF. Which one is that orange again? 7200, I think. Yeah, that's orange. Yeah, 7200. Okay, so you can say maybe font size. Maybe font size of, let's look at what 30 pixel look like. Okay, I think it's not bad. Then let's do font family. Maybe font family of maybe sans serif or area, anyone. Yeah, font family is like your fonts, like your regular fonts in, just like you have in your Microsoft Office. Okay, so okay, so font family. Yeah, we can also add yeah, I think we are good with that. There's no point actually. But there's no point. We've already floated it to the left, and we can maybe, yeah, I think we are good with that. So let's just leave that as that. So we've started our logo. This is our logo, and then if you go back to our HTML, so this is what we have. So we've started our icon, we've started our logo. This is what we have now as our logo. So the next thing we want to start is this menu. So this menu is like this, but we don't want it like this because we want them on the same line. Actually, we have floated one to the right, to the left. So we can also float this one to the right and then style it to become a link. So we can go ahead now. So the next one that we style is this guy. So we have this menu. So we can go ahead and style this menu and say dot menu. Okay, so if we do style dot menu, so we can say the width. We can give it a width of let's say maybe 400 pixel, since we are sure that the entire width is 100%. So out of the 100%, we now take out 40 pixel. The 100% might actually end on being maybe 1,100 pixel. So out of it, we're using 400 pixel for this link, for the menu. And we can also float that guy. We can also float this guy to the left inside of this. Yeah. And we can say a height, maybe a height of 70 pixel. Yeah. So we have that. So we can then begin to style this UI, UL. Okay, so now that we are done with that, so let's style UL. UL. So we can say UL display, maybe flex. Yeah. The same way we can just say this slide display like inline. But flex we had we still had this, but you say display of this inline. Excuse me, okay, sorry, is list. This is, let's leave this as flex. And let's also add something. Let's say you should justify content. Maybe center. Yeah. Yeah, let's say you should also align items. You should align it to the center also. Yeah. So the next thing we start is the UL headline, which is the list itself, which is inside the unordered list. So you can say maybe list style is equals to maybe none. So it has taken out the dot for the unordered list, which you can also use decoration, text decoration none. So it all depends on the approach, right? So you can do text decoration none or list style none. Can also say margin left, maybe 60 pixel or something. Then let's say we want to do margin top also. Margin top of, let's say maybe 25 pixel. And let's say font size of maybe 14 or 15 pixels. I think that's usually the standard. Okay. Okay, I think that's about all. Yeah, I think that's about all. So let me save this. So that's the result. The reason why you see them, like here because they are here is like dropping it to the next line is because of the size of the screen. So because this screen is actually divided into two, right? And because I use value instead of percentage. If I had used percentage, the result would have been that I would have had something like you know, everything being pushed together because it's in percentage, right? But because I specify the value in pixel. So as you begin to adjust the screen size, because it's possible that you might have a much larger screen if you're using desktop to view that same website. So that's what we call responsiveness. So because if you don't do responsive, if you don't do responsive, it means that this view that you have when you're using a larger screen will be different from the view that you have when you're using a much smaller screen. And the view will be different from when you're using your phone. So which is why responsive is actually better. Then you can code all of those things in percentage and not just giving them a value in pixel. If you do pixel, which means that once you begin to adjust your screen size, like it will just keep to that measurement which you have specified. So which means that 10 pixel will be 10 pixel. But if you use percentage will be relative to the size of your screen. So if you say 10%, when you are in much larger screen, 10% is 10%. When you're on a smaller screen like phone, 10% will still be 10% there. So that's just the advantage. But because of the value that was specified here, so you can see what we have. Once the screen size changes, you see it's fitting here. But once the screen size changes, what we also have the result also change. So we can just go ahead and probably maybe add one or two things to this and then maybe build up the body. But ultimately, is no different from like what we have done before. And you can see these are linked. And if you check, because we already specified this to be at the IPA reference to be hash, so it's just going to retain that same page. If not, it's supposed to load the page for you and take you to another page entirely. In lieu of that image, while we're still, I will try and see, I will still check why that image is not loading. In lieu of that, we can just do maybe background color of black. Okay, and that would be hash 000, right? Okay. So I'm not sure if we'll be able to cover that in this class, but you must have seen like two different views now on most recent websites where you can then toggle between light mode and dark mode, right? So you can actually achieve that with JavaScript. If time permits, maybe we'll cover that. But let's say you're trying something like this out. So this can be like a view, you can have another view. So so you can then apply all of the other ones that we've done before, like on mouse over, on mouse out, and all of that. You can actually add them to this. And you can also change the color of this this guy. Okay. What's that guy again? Okay. So, like I said, there are different ways of actually getting the results. But most importantly, like whatever thing you want to do, whatever changes you have, you've made, you can actually preview using your browser, because the browser will then give you the opportunity to say you want to inspect maybe we should just add one more thing to this guy. Let's add one more thing to this and we'll close there. Then I'll take question. So I'll just give you an assignment. I will send this code. Then I will just give you an assignment to complete it, right? So you can just complete and flesh it up, right? With the content of the page. Once we've done the major thing. So the rest you can just add content to it. So let me just quickly add one more thing to it. And we can then close there. Okay, so this guy houses everything. This means so this navbar is responsible for this link and this guy. So it closes here. Okay, one more thing, I can add one more thing to this div. So which means that I will have 3 different div inside the navbar div, which is the logo, the menu, and maybe the search bar. So let's just add that to it and stop there tonight. So I can add the search bar here. So that will be another div. And this div will now be of class. So you can see now. So like this is like a single row. On a single row, like I said, is a div. That's a div, a session, right? So with this, you can do, let's call this class maybe search bar, because that's what we want it to be. And so we just want this to be, so to be able to search, like from the form that we did last week, right? If you remember from the form, we have what we call the input, which is used to take input from the user. But this time the type, instead of the type being test, the type can then be maybe search. Yeah, the type can be search. Yeah, and you can see it's coming up. Then we have we can give it a name, an attribute name, so that when you want to use any scripting language to collect the value, is the name that you will reference. You can add a placeholder. So placeholder basically is the name that will appear. Maybe you can say type your test here or something. Type, you can see as I'm typing it, it's showing. That's what is referred to as placeholder. Type test here or something, anything. Type test here. Okay, so the user will know, okay, I'm supposed to type test here. And once that is done, you can then add maybe your anchor of href, right? Can also be for now, because it's not actually taking you anywhere. And you want to add maybe a button, right? Sorry, let me close this guy. And you know that link, where is it? What should appear there? Button. Good. And inside that button, you want to add maybe search. So you want the button name will be search. That's what will appear on the button. And maybe the button also belongs to a class that you intend to style, maybe BTN. Okay. All right. So this is what we have, right? Yeah. So let's style it now. So let's style it so that it can actually look like what we want. We'll still look at responsiveness in details later. So let's style this guy. Let's go to our CSS. So in our CSS now, let's start with the class, which is this class called search. Okay, so dot search as a selector, then property, the major ones, maybe 200 pixel, right? Maybe a height of maybe 40 pixel. Okay. Let's say the background should be transparent. Yeah, maybe. for that search button. Transparent. Then let's say maybe a border, yeah. Maybe border of 1 pixel, yeah. 1 pixel. Solid means that you also want it to be together. If you define something as solid, whatever happens, like it will stay on that line. Unlike if that solid property is not specified, or solid value is not specified, like it can easily align. You can easily move to inline rather. FF. Okay, let's use that same value for our border. And let's say 1 pixel border solid. Maybe margin top. Maybe margin top of maybe 13 pixel. Okay. And let's say maybe font size or something. Font size maybe of maybe 14 or 15 pixel. Yeah. Then let's say on the right hand side, border right. Okay. Border right, none. No border on the right. Float. Let's float it to the left too. So the same way we are floating. The same way we can actually float this UL too to the left. Yeah. So okay, I think with this we are actually good. So the next thing, so let's tie this next. So we can tie this button. Okay. Or this input also. Yeah, let's tie this input too. Let's give it a class of let's say this class search. Okay, so that one is class search, or you can give it any name actually. But it must not be a name that already exists. Okay, let's use the same one, search. Okay, so let's just come back to this. And just dot this. Okay. So if we're using this approach, so let's move all of these things. So let's just leave this one as with floats and move every other thing here. Right? Okay, so let's move it to this particular one, and let's tie this one width of, let's say 320 pixel, and we'll float it to the left. We're almost done. Float it to the left. I'll say maybe some margin left. Maybe like 250 pixel, something. Okay, so let's search this one. So the height of 40, the width of let's give this one width of maybe like 200 pixel. Then let's do height of 40, background transparent. Yeah, can also float this also to the left. Okay. And picture that thing. Okay, so I think yeah, we can add it if you want. Maybe padding of maybe like 10 pixel. You can say font size or color. That's the test color now. The color of white for the test. Yeah, and I think with that we are good. So okay, so we then need to style this guy. So we said border right, none. So which is the reason why we don't have any border on the right here. If you also want, you can say maybe border radius. Though that will not be effective on the right hand side. Let's say 50 pixel. Okay, yeah, that's it. Okay, so we have added border radius to it, so it's now curved kind of, and so our UL will float to the left, display will flex it, and then center, and this, yeah, so we can search this, we can now style the button last, which means that the button belongs to a class called BTN. So that's the last thing, BTN, selector, then the property. We can say we have 100. They are not so big. So a lot of whites. So that's quite large. Very fine. Device show close to 40. Okay, I think that's about us. Though it's not going to function, like, because we didn't actually link it to anywhere. But that's basically how to get this done. You can actually preview the browser and see. So what we can actually do also is we can actually take this guy up here, right? And align and float maybe this guy to the right-hand side, so that since all of them, they are just inside a single div, align this one to the left, and then align this other one to the right, so that, but that would then depend, whatever you specify here, ultimately, if the goal is for everything to be on the same line, such that we have logo here, our links here, then we have this search bar on the right-hand side here, on the same line, everything in line. It all depends on the size that I will specify at the end of the day. So if this entire space, let's say from here, the width of our entire, which is the main now, our main, if the main is, let's say, 1,200 pixel, and based on all the things that we have done, let's say we said our logo should take up maybe like, logo is already taking up maybe like 300, and this one is taking up like, let's say, 700, and you now specify this one to be 300 again. So if you add 200 plus 700 plus 300, and it's already greater than 1,100 pixel, which is your screen size, eventually what means is that the last element will automatically be dropped to the next line. So you will still have that problem. So which is why that dimension is very important. If not, you can just go ahead and just use percentage. If the pixel value will be confusing. So you just know that if your logo is already taking up maybe like 10%, 20%, and your link is already taking up maybe like maybe 60 or 70%, you know what you have left is 10%. Then in that case, it will just fit it into whatever you have. But you might still encounter problem if you then specify all of these things, like this search bar now, if you specify it maybe in value in pixel, and this one also in pixel, and what you have altogether is greater than the total width that you have, you might still have that problem. But I think ultimately the assignment, where the assignment is actually starting for us is, one, ensure that you are able to align all of these three elements which are inside this single div. So if you check it out, let me show you. So you have this guy called navbar. Inside navbar, you have this first element, right? Inside the navbar, let me move this one forward a little bit. So this is the first element inside this navbar. This is the second element inside this navbar, this menu, and the div ended here. And this is the third element inside this navbar, search. So which means that search, where is that our search? Where did you start that search? Okay, so maybe instead of this one, we can float it to the right. I don't know. Yeah. So, okay, so which means that if you reduce this size now, this guy can actually be on the same line with the rest of them. Let's save this guy, and let's even look at what the browser view will look like. Control S to save. Control S to save. Let's go to the desktop. So that's where we'll stop tonight. Basically, I will just require us to just complete it up. Okay, yeah, I think it's aligned on the browser, though. Let me share my screen. Though we'll still need to make one or two adjustments. Let me stop this one and let me share my browser. which is this. All right, so this is what we have eventually. So we can still, so from your browser now, you can inspect and maybe make all the necessary correction from here before you now go to your code. So from here now, so you can see, if you go here and you click here, for example, it will give you, you will see the CSS here, you can see. Here's the CSS. The CSS for this UL, for this other list that which you click on. If you come here again and you click on this icon and you come to this one and you click here, so you can see. So for example, now let's even reduce this margin left. Let's reduce this margin left to maybe like 150. Because that margin left is okay, but it's floating to the right, right? Okay. So if we float it to the left too. Yeah. If you float it to the left and you had a margin of 250, yeah, that might work. So you can then check, yeah, that works. So you can also drop it to the same level of this one. So you can just go and check the margin top that you use for this one and also apply the same margin top for this one too. Maybe margin top, you can see that's the advantage of these guys sometimes, using your browser too. So you can make the adjustments here first and then go and implement it in your code. Imagine if you want to achieve the same results, just make sure you use the same dimension that you have here. So you might want to go and check the margin top that you use for this Code Africa and use the same margin top here so that it will then align together. If not, you might, if you apply margin top of 20 pixels here, you might actually have to go back to this one also and apply that same margin top to that one also, so that everything can then align properly. Aside that, I think, yeah, margin top. Margin top of 20 pixels is what we applied for that one. 20 pixel. Yeah. So that's it. So you can then move everything. You can do the same thing for this one too. Margin top of this one to 20 pixels so that everything will just be on the same line. Then it then depends on what you want at the end of the day, right? That's what we then determine. Yeah. So this is another thing that we have done. In fact, this is even different from what we did in the first class and the second class. This is another approach entirely. So, which is why I said there are many ways to the market, but it does depend on the approach that you want to take yourself. So because it's already 8 o'clock. So this is where we'll stop tonight. So the assignment is what we've done tonight now, this that we have done. So I want you to flesh it up and build this into a complete web page. Now, build this into a complete web page. You can also check out, instead of giving it background of black that we have done, maybe you can try that image background that we tend to add. I will debug after now to see what the issue is with that background, and I will fix it up. I actually send maybe an update to that group once I'm able to look at it and fix it, so that we can then, if you want to take that approach, you can. But if you don't want to take that approach, you can still use that approach of background. You can, in fact, you might not even use white background. You might not even use black background like I did here. You can use white background. Just make sure that your color is different from the background, so that whatever we have here, can be visible on whichever background color that you use. Then flesh this up into a complete web page, and when we come together next week, we will review. So that's where we'll stop tonight. Okay, so let me take all of your questions now. So if you have questions, you can go ahead now.
What do you mean by we should flesh it up into a complete web page? I don't understand.
What do I mean by flesh it up into a complete web page?
Yes.
I'm saying that what we've done so far now, try and complete what we have done so far. So what we've done so far, this is just basically the header that we have done. We have done the header, we have given it a logo, we have done the menu, we have done a search bar. So you can go ahead and just maybe add images, maybe text to it. What you can see on a normal web page, on a simple web page, just add it up to on this one that we've done so far to look like a complete web page. That's what I mean by flesh up. Okay, please, sir, is the header part of the HTML constants? Yes. So the header tag is actually used to actually separate like a section to demarcate the header of your web page. So like I said, we have in HTML5, we have additional tags in HTML5 like headers, article, sessions, and all of that. So the reason for all of those new tags is to actually help you to structure your web page in a manner such that when you see a tag, you can know what that tag is actually meant for. What we've done so far is we are using class to actually style the element, right? But if you're doing proper HTML5, you can actually use tags like header, session, nav, navigation, nav bar. You can actually use those actually can be tag on their own. Header, session, article, nav, they can stand as tag on their own in HTML5, such that those tags, you can then pick that tag and style that tag in your CSS, rather than giving it a class, now picking the class name and styling the class name. All of those tags now that were introduced in HTML5 can now stand alone in CSS and be styled. Those are the advantage of using HTML5 and the header that you're talking about. So you can drop your question in the comment section but you can also unmute yourself and go ahead and ask the question. Let's just quickly.
Okay. Good evening. Good evening, sir.
Yeah, good evening.
Good evening, everyone. I really appreciate the class. I appreciate you, sir. This is my first class, so I really I don't know if there is maybe a recorded version of this class where someone can go through this lesson again to try and follow up.
Yeah, this class is being recorded, and the link you can see, I think someone has already dropped the link to the WhatsApp group. Somebody has already dropped the link to the WhatsApp group, so you can join the WhatsApp page. This code, the one we've done so far, will also be sent to that group, so you can copy and maybe compare with what you've learned and maybe practice after. I think this video also is being recorded, and I think the link to this video will also be made available on that group, on that WhatsApp page. So you can just join the WhatsApp page. Okay, next question. So please, there is like meta cancel.
Hello, sir.
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, sir, thanks for the lesson. We really appreciate you spending time to take it over again. When we started the class, I actually wanted to mention, but my network was bad. I wanted to mention that I actually practiced the whole thing you told us to do last week. So, but it's good the way we went over it again. So I just have a suggestion, sir. Due to the fact that what we are doing is bulky, I want to ask if you can help us talk to the management, if we can have a session during the week where we come with our questions from what we are practicing. We'll come together with our questions. We'll just strictly questions for that particular day, and we know that okay, the next class we are going to go further. So that I think that way is going to enable us to actually go far, because if we keep going back and forth again, I don't think we'll be able to do much with the little period of time we have. So that's just my suggestion. If you can help us talk to the management we can pick maybe a Friday evening, we'll have a question and answer session of what we all did. Each and everyone will be able to submit his assignment and show the hosts, and we'll know from there, okay, the next class, we are actually progressing instead of going back again and having to take everything from the beginning.
Okay, yeah, I think your suggestion is okay, but of course I can't actually guarantee that my own availability during the week. I think one of the reasons why this section was put on the weekend is because of the availability of maybe some of the facilitators also. Like I won't be the only facilitator. There are also the other facilitators too that will come up at one point or the other. But of course, you know, we are all engaged in one way or the other. So making time out during the week might not be feasible for us. And the reason why I had to do this all over again today is simply because of the fact that I didn't get any response. And I felt like it won't make any sense, you know, building something on nothing. So if like maybe larger percentage of the class don't even understand what we have done, like the basis. So what's the point of going further to say, okay, we are building on it? So which means that whatever we're saying, we just be like, you know, we're just playing because they don't even understand the foundation, which is the reason why I had to go do this over again. But I can assure you that nobody's going to do this again. No facilitator, whether myself or someone else, would not go over to start from HTML again from today. So even if we don't get any response, is either we shut down the entire session because we just say, okay, maybe people are not interested. Because of course, like I said, it's a free training, right? And because it's free, it's possible that people don't take it serious because of course it's costing us in probably maybe from the data. So if the coordinator should do another assessment and probably they see that this is not impacting or the response is not as it's supposed to be, then the coordinator can then decide to shut down the entire program. But that's dependent on decision of the coordinator, like I said. But nobody, I can assure you, nobody's going to go over this HTML again. The whole essence of this is just to say, okay, since it seems nobody's responding, let's see how we can actually go over it again and see maybe we can then carry a lot of people along, and maybe from there people can then pick up. But on the next assessment, maybe the coordinators will then decide what will happen subsequently.
We'll do better, sir. We'll do better.
Okay. I also want to assure
thank you. Sorry, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, sir. I think this revision was done because of me, because it's today I actually understand this thing, sincerely speaking. So I want to appreciate you so much. Thank you.
All right.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
I can't remember what you called that thing. HTML. You said this can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Go ahead. Let me see if I'll be able to.
When we click on the home contact, it will not take us to another page because of the hash.
Yeah.
Link. It was hash, right? I don't know what that thing is.
Yeah, it's hash. It's hash.
Okay. If you actually use ID, would it give us the same thing?
If you use ID.
Yes.
ID is different from class. So what I've done here is
not the class, not class. The link that you actually linked this home, about, portfolio, contact.
Yeah.
When you click on it, it won't take you to another page. That's what you said.
It won't. Yeah, because the hyper reference there is hash.
Okay. So if you use ID, it's totally different.
Yeah, if you use it's different. So you can, in fact, you can specify the page you want to take it to. So for example, if you have done, let's say you have another page called about.html. So instead of putting that hash, just put that page about.html. Once you click on it, to take you to about.html.
Okay.
Sir, furthermore,
title tag is appearing on live preview. For example, when I open the title and write web development, it's showing on. Of course, that's what will happen. Now that's the title. So whatever you put in the title is what will appear on the title on the live preview. It's as simple as
Sir.
that. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, in addition to what my colleague just asked now, this ID element, I examined codes of some particular website and I saw it there. I actually want to know what the function is.
So ID works like a class, right? So the same way we have class, that's the same way ID works. ID simply means identifier. Identifier is like, just like the same way I explain class. That's the same way identifier works. The only difference between class and ID is that when you want to style a class in CSS, you start with dot. Or if it's an ID, you start with hash. So for example, now, let me go back. Let me quickly do one example. So let me share in this and share back my Visual Studio. We just change. So just quickly just change one. All right, so here now. So let's go back to, let's quickly just do this. So here, what we have here is search, right? So instead of this class search, let's change it. Sorry, I don't need to delete that search. What I just need to do, just come here and change this one to ID. ID search. ID is equal to search. I will just go to my CSS. Where I have that search, this guy, this dot search, I'll just change this one to this. Hash search, and I'll save it.
Okay.
So when you want to use ID, you use hash. But when you're using class, you use dots.
Go back to the HTML. Let me see something. Okay. Where's the ID?
That is the ID.
Okay.
All right. I think
is it going to change anything?
No, it won't change anything. That's what I'm saying. The difference is just that, the ID and class work the same way. The difference is that ID is identifier, and when you want to style an identifier, you start with hash. Just like you have here, you start with hash. But if it's with class, when you want to style a class, you start with dots. That's just different. But they both work the same way. ID means identifier, and class, like I explained, is just used to differentiate among different other classes, such that once an element does not belong to that class, it will never inherit whatever property and value which you have which you have defined for that class.
Thank you, sir.
All right. This is what we talk tonight. I will try and drop the. Let me see if I can just compress this and just drop it, or maybe I can drop it one after the other and just copy and paste. You can just save the same way like that. I think if you save it like that, you also get the same results. All right, everyone. Thank you very much.
So what was the next assessment? The next assessment.
So next weekend, let's go ahead and do all of these things I have said today. So flesh up what we've done tonight, practice it. If there is any question, then we'll know, okay, you have question. Or if there is no question, let's try and flesh what we've done up. Then next class, we just move further from there so that we can quickly go to scripting languages like JavaScript and do some projects on JavaScript and proceed from there. All right, everyone. Thank you
Thank you very much for today's lecture. We really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thanks for your time, sir.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you very much for your time, sir.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome.